Easter week. Welcome to Claire Tansey's Kitchen. I am Claire Tansey. I have completely changed the camera setup, so I'm way over here, and it means I might not be able to read your comments unless I'm like this. Hi, we're gonna make hot cross buns. Everybody wants to make a hot cross buns. It is Easter, and many of you mentioned that you would be shocked, delighted, and awed if I could make these start to finish in 20 minutes. So I can't do the 100% in 20 minutes. Like, I'm gonna have to miss, like, obviously the baking time and the proofing time, but all the prep work I'm gonna do, okay, all I've done is I've taken everything out of the pantry and I've measured the butter, okay? So that's all I've done. Oh, and I measured the milk. Guys, we're making hot cross buns, so we're just gonna dive right into it. This is 3/4 cup of milk, and before you get your self upset, I'm gonna post the recipe, and I'll post it today, okay? So I'll post it before the end of tonight. 1/3 cup of butter, and that's going in here. I'm just gonna melt the butter. So, we're already there. We're already halfway there. Now I'm gonna make the flour mixture. So your baking life becomes so much easier when you have a digital scale. Can I tell you? Oh, so much easier. So here's I'm gonna make this in a stand mixer. You can make it by hand if you want. But in order to get this started, first you're gonna make a lot of noise. The more the better. So if I turn on my scale, it beeps at me. Beep. I'm gonna start with 2 cups of flour. Oh, look at that. I found the 1/3 cup measure. It was hiding in the flour this whole time. So here's what we're doing, okay? So we're making bread, okay? Yeah, hot cross buns are bread. So just brace yourselves. I believe in you. You can do it. We're using yeast. We're using yeast. Real live yeast. I believe in you. You can do it. It's the worst that can happen. It's just food. It's not brain surgery, people. And the thing with bread is there's a lot of misconceptions. Oh my gosh. Let me just measure this flour so I measure it properly. So you see what I'm doing with the digital scale here. I'm measuring out 2 cups of flour, which is exactly 300 grams. No, sweeping and scooping and all that stuff. But don't get rid of the flour because I'm going to need a little bit more flour in a bit. And the thing with bread is, if people get freaked out, I get that. Well, you tell me. I think because people think, well, how am I going to know if it's ready? How am I going to know if it needs more butter? How am I going to know if it needs more kneading? I don't know. What if it doesn't rise? I'm going to have a panic attack. Just to show you. Now I'm adding the sugar. And again, I didn't have to take out any more measuring cups. I just need 50 grams of sugar. Okay, people, keep your pants on. This is a sweet bread. It's a sweet bun for Easter. However, it is not overly sweet. This is not going to have the flavor of a cupcake. This is a sweet bread. You can go up to 1/3 cup if you want, but I like 1/4 cup because there's going to be icing. Okay, 1/4 cup of sugar. So anyways, back to our whole issue about freaking out about bread. So listen, the thing is, much like roast chicken and omelets, all you really need to do is just do it a bunch of times. So I've been making hot cross buns since maybe a couple years, not too long. My mom always made them when I was little. And then there was the terrible year that we all went off to church, raised Catholic. We all went off to church and Mom left the buns nicely iced on the counter. And you think, oh, and the dog got them, didn't she? Sammy, the dog. No, it wasn't dogs. You know what it was? Ants. Billions and billions of ants crawling all over my mom's freshly glazed hot cross buns. That was about 1979. It was very traumatic. Okay, so babies, my beautiful babies, this is yeast. This is yeast. You can buy it in little packets, or you can buy it in this little container here. This is called Fleischmann's Traditional Active Dry Yeast. I make hot cross buns many, many years ago. Yes, hockey pucks. Not to worry, we are going to fix that problem. Okay, so this is yeast. You buy it in the packets, but I prefer buying it in this jar because this recipe calls for a tablespoon, and one of those packets is only 2 1/4 teaspoons. Oh, yum, yum, yum yourself, Mr. Bruce Celery. So yeast is not that scary. You've probably heard that the water has to be just right in order, the temperature of the water has to be just right in order for it to come alive. You can't add salt, you can't add sugar. Just don't worry about it. I'm adding it dry to this mixture. Everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be just fine. Now, meanwhile, if you missed the first 10 seconds, I'm just melting a little bit of butter in some milk. Now, the thing about hot cross buns is all about the spices. So I'm gonna do a teaspoon, half teaspoon, let's not go crazy. I'm gonna do half teaspoon of cinnamon. And then, because I love it, I'm gonna go quarter teaspoon cardamom. And then I'm also gonna do quarter teaspoon of allspice. So allspice is your classic for hot cross buns. Clove is also very classic. I don't find I want clove and allspice. That's just a little too much for Claire. But just, you know, for fun, I'm gonna do a heaping quarter teaspoon. So that's just cinnamon, cardamom. You could use nutmeg instead. Cardamom, cinnamon, salt. Let's do half teaspoon of salt. Zippity-doo-dah. All right. Blur. Flour, sugar, etc. Spices and yeast. Now, the other main thing with hot cross buns, of course, is the fruit. So, before anybody gets too excited, I've been like telling you that people be getting so excited. Is it regular or bread machine yeast? It's just regular yeast. I don't have bread machine. I can never find instant yeast. I only ever just use active dry yeast. It's the same kind of yeast I use, Virginia, for the no-knead bread and for any other time I make bread. Okay, so here's the controversial part. I know a lot of you don't like candied peel. This is candied orange peel. Actually, this is candied mixed peel. If you love it, give me a heart. If you hate it, give me a angry. I don't know what. I love it. It's in Christmas cake. It's in hot cross buns. People, it has things to do with the birth and death of Jesus. I don't know why the two things are associated, but they are. So I'm going to use now let's see, I'm going to need a bowl. I'm going to use about a third of a cup of candied mixed peel. Oh crap. You gotta tear. You gotta zero the bowl before adding all this. 60 grams. 55, 60 grams. Good. Oh, crumbs. That's boiling. Don't do that. Okay, 60 grams of that. And then, I'm not gonna use raisins. I'm gonna use currants. 3/4 of a cup of currants. So you can use raisins instead, or not. When I did the whole butter tart thing, people went ballistic, burners about the existence of raisins. I personally don't understand how currants and raisins are different from each other, but I understand from my old friend Irene No that currants and raisins are very different. Where did I get my scale? Any kitchenware store. I've bought them at Canadian Tire, Home Hardware, like anywhere. 20, 25 bucks to get you a kitchen scale. All right, I'm just gonna turn that on for a second. And what time is it? 4:08. Okay, so this got a little bit boily. So what I'm gonna do, so that was just the butter and milk together. And then just for ease of adding, and add all the dried fruit into there. I really should cool this down a little bit, but for the fun of it, we're just gonna add this now. Okay, so that does not look delicious. Don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. Turn on the mixer. In goes the milk and, oh yeah, there's currants everywhere. So that is into the flour mixture. I've got that milk, melted butter, and all the currants and all the mixed dried peel. Okay, so now that's got itself mixed around. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, doesn't look too bad. It's a little sticky. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a little sticky. That's why we didn't put the flour away. So now I'm going to add flour by 1/4 cup increments, just until the dough is not very, very sticky anymore. I'll keep this on. Where's my 1/4 cup? Close enough. So while this is going around, work up. So the thing with bread, oh, Shell, oh, Arlene, is it a stand mixer? You can just use your hands if you want. I'm just using the stand mixer because it's faster, because I pity for this thing, like it never gets used. Shell, if I'm too poor for a stand mixer, can I do this by hand? Of course you can. Of course you can. Like I said, you can do this by hand. It just takes a little bit more elbow grease. Who's got a stand mixer anymore? I got this like I don't know, 15 years ago. Still going strong. Alrighty. Definitely look, oh, it's looking, actually that's looking quite nice. I'm gonna add about another 2 tablespoons and then I'm gonna show it to you. And then, we're gonna knead this baby a little bit. So, a little bit of that here. And I need a big metal bowl. Okay. Big metal bowl. What could that be for? It's a hat! No. Okay, so let me show you this now. Oh. 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 Get on you. Okay. Voici the dough. So this is sweet dough, what we call sweet dough. Oh, the egg, I forgot the egg. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. 1 egg. As I was saying, this is a rich, sweet dough. So it's a bread dough that's basically been enriched with, and when I say enriched, I mean like made richer with the butter, the melted butter, and made sweet with sugar and dried fruit. Get that mixed in. Whoa. A little touch more flour. I knew there was something I was forgetting. Okay, almost there. All right. So, it's sticky. Very nice. Nice and sticky. So I've got my flour counter, and now I'm just going to knead this a little bit. That's better. Anyone else want her walnut cake recipe? Oh yes, my walnut cake. Thank you everybody for your wonderful birthday wishes. I had a lovely, lovely birthday yesterday. And as you know, I made my own birthday cake. And it's quite delicious. And I've been eating it all week. So it's not a perfect recipe, and I did it in a kind of an unusual pan, because that's what you can do when you make your own birthday cake. So stay tuned, and I will eventually post that recipe. I don't know when. Hang tight. Okay, so you see this dough. It's kind of floppy, full of raisins. And here's the key thing. Now, if you take away anything from this lesson, if you're worried about bread or making bread, you've just made my day by forgetting the egg. You do this all the time. At least I remembered it before I had them in the oven. That's always a good sign. So what I'm doing now is I'm just doing the kind of the final kneading here. Because this has gone around in the stand mixer for a while, it doesn't really need to be kneaded too much. But if you're going to remember one thing about bread making, and this came up when I was making the no-knead bread back in the fall, wetter is always better. See, it even rhymes. Wetter is always better. When it comes to bread dough, wetter is always better. I don't know why that is. It just helps the gluten strands to, I don't know. I'm sure if I read the new like 5,000 word book, 5,000 page book on bread, I would find out. But wetter is always better. So if you're in doubt and you think maybe I should add a little bit more flour, leave it out, because you can always add a little bit more flour like here if things start to stick, or at our next step when we go to shape and proof these. So that's it. Oh, and may I say, it smells delightful. Smells delightful. Okay, so now this is the annoying thing about making bread, yeasted bread. There's just a little canola oil in there. You have to let it rise twice. And that's why bread is something that's good to make when you sort of have a home day. If say it's like, oh, I don't know, a statutory holiday on a Friday and you're not religious, so you don't go to church. I'm just saying that kind of a day may be coming up in the near future. So, because, you know, you make this part, and then I actually like to let this bit rise. See, I put a little oil in there, then I just flopped the dough over so that it got covered in oil. And then what I normally do is I just take a plate, throw it over here. And then you gotta let this rise. So depending on the weather, it might take 2 hours, might take overnight. I know. Wondering why you don't use the dough hook? Good question. I hate the dough hook. Find it never works. Never gets up all the dough from the bottom, or all the flour from the bottom. Okay, so this is proof or rise number 1. So this needs to go in a warmish place. When I was making a batch yesterday, I left it out on the counter. It was kind of chilly yesterday, and man, it must have taken 7 hours. Don't worry, just leave it overnight. Totally fine. It's better to give it more time. Way, 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 way better to give it more time than to give it not enough time. So anybody who has had hot cross buns turn out like hockey pucks, it's because you didn't let them rise enough. That's basically it. So put it in the oven with the light on, put a hot water bottle near it, like make it nice and cozy, and then let it rise, and then just let it be. Don't even worry about it. That's why I put the oil in there. It's not going to get dried out. I got my berry, for some reason I ran out of plastic wrap, and oh my gosh, we only have 4 minutes. Stop talking. So I'm using a plate. Okay, so then what happens is, due to the magic of advanced planning and matching bowls, I have this batch of dough that I made, earlier today actually, so this is coming along quite nicely. And how do you know, oh man, it smells so good. How do you know if it's ready? Well, you just stick your finger in it, obviously, and it's very soft, and you see how my finger went all the way in there, and it's stuck. There's a nice big hole right in there. No worries about it rotting overnight, not even a little bit. I mean, if you have a compromised immune system, I feel like I can't speak for you. But we're gonna bake these babies. Okay, so now what's gonna happen is I'm going to divide this baby up into 12 equal pieces. And again, the digital scale is your friend. So you're gonna kind of punch it down, get all the air out of it. And then I'm just gonna weigh it. 880. Bruce, what's 880 divided by 12? I'll give you a minute. So that's why the digital scale is going to make me 12 perfect sized buns. I don't have to worry that one's going to be, bigger than the other. So 880 divided by 12. 73? 73? Let's try 73. So then I'm going to measure out 73 for each of these, etc., etc. That's 51. That's 73. Okay, so because we're now running just a little short on time, we're 2 minutes shy, I'll just show you how to shape these. So then once you have all your 12 organized like this, then you reshape them into nice little boulettes here. Then you get yourself a baking pan, a 9 by 13 baking pan, comme ça. I prefer glass for this, or what do you call this, Pyrex. The bottoms don't get quite as burnt. Again, a little bit of oil so they don't stick. And then once they go in there, that one, he can go there, can you see him in there? Hello. And then this guy. So then these guys, this is the second proof. So once those all go in, and you get them all, they don't have to touch, but you just evenly space them, cover these babies back into the warm place another hour or so, and then you bake them. And then, so excited, it's such a TV chef today. Then you have hot cross buns. Also, if anybody lives on my street and wants a hot cross bun, do come over. I have my cat sit on top of the plate. That's disgusting, Bruce, but if that's what floats your boat, that's fine. So then, how do we get the cross on them? And also, what is the cross about? Well, the cross is about the crucifixion. That's why you have them at Easter. So don't feel you have to. You see, I baked these in metal, and they got a little bit burnt on the bottom. No good. About 30 minutes in the old oven. They bake up. You get them completely cool. Okay, completely cool. If you want to get the nice cross effect. And this is a cup of icing sugar mixed with 2 tablespoons of water. So it's not anything funny. And then you can do this with a piping bag, but I'm actually more fond of just doing a nice little, woo! Can you see that? There we go. Cross and cross. So I have to tell you, okay, it's 4:20. Stick around for the jokes. When I lived in Guelph, and I worked at this wonderful bakery called With the Grain. It was absolutely wonderful. We made these muffins at this time of year called hot cross muffins, which was just your basic muffin dough, but we would put, you know, the spices in it and the dried fruit and the raisins or currants, and then we would do a little cross on top of them. Anyway, you know, there are lots of students who worked in this bakery, and one of them who didn't grow up in Canada. You know, she's a lovely young girl, but she said to me, because I was the baker that day, she said, "What kind of muffins do we have today?" And I said, "Oh, well, we have, let's say, strawberry muffins, and we have hot cross muffins." Okay, she said. And then about an hour later, I hear her telling the customers, or I hear her telling a customer, "Okay, well, our muffins today are strawberry and cross." And so I went up to her, and you can see where this is going. I said, "Well, no, whatever her name was, they're not called cross muffins, they're called hot cross muffins." And of course she says, "Well, they've been out of the oven for an hour. I'm not calling them hot anymore." Guys, thank you for tuning into the 20-minute cooking school. This has been a very fun and rushed hot cross bun. I am going to stick around, so if you still have questions, please just start shooting me little messages, and I will try to answer all your questions. I'll sit down and answer your questions. If you don't want the religious symbolism of the cross, you can also just, I mean, you can do whatever you want, right? Like you can just put a little bit of icing on here, blah, etc. I'm going to post the recipe probably in about an hour or so. And until then, we will see you next week. Have an awesome week. Have an awesome long weekend if you have one. If not. And thanks for tuning in to the 20-minute cooking school. I'm Claire Tansey, and I have to come around to the front of this to turn off the live broadcast. Extreme close-up. See you later.